Hey now, welcome back to the Deadology Podcast from Pencil Hill Studio, New Paltz, New York. I'm your host, Howard Weiner. This is Season 2, Episode 15 of the podcast. Today is April 13th, Friday the 13th, and tomorrow, April 14th, will be the topic of this podcast. We're going to look at two amazing shows, the legendary 1972 show from 414 Tivoli Gardens, Copenhagen, and we're also going to celebrate Glens Falls Civic Center, 1982. The Grateful Dead played an amazing show there, 10 years after the Copenhagen show. And joining me on the podcast tonight, Doug Schmell, a prolific taper back in the day and lifelong Jerry Garcia enthusiast, and also one of my best friends. He will be making his third appearance on the Deadology podcast to help me dive into these awesome shows. But before we travel back to Europe 72, we'll start with the Glens Falls show. Doug and I were blessed to be there on that night. Two things I like to mention before we go to the Zoom call, which I did the other day with Doug. The Glens Falls Civic Center is no longer known as that. The name is gone. It is now called the Cool Insuring Arena. And that kind of drives me nuts. All these great venues have sort of lost their identity and almost part of their history by these corporate name changes. But all things considered, Cool Insuring Arena is not that bad. I mean, it beats being like Petco Pavilion or something like that. But anyway, the building's still there. I visited it like a year and a half ago. Such an awesome place to see the Grateful Dead. And that particular tape, 41482 Glens Falls, that first set, I think is the set I've listened to more than any other Grateful Dead set. If it's not the number one set, it's right up there. It's got to be top 10. From the day I got that tape, I've just been enamored with it. I played the tape out on cassette. The box broke. I had to get it recorded again. I went from audience to soundboard. And many years later, I got it on CD. Same thing. Listened to the CD so much, it deteriorated. It had to burn new discs of it. And even this day on the re-listen app, I always pull up that Glens Falls. It's such a go-to show. Especially the first set, just everything in there. There's no indecision. Almost every song in that set is best ever or in contention for best ever. So it's no indecision. The band is just on fire. This is the tape. If you're giving it to someone who isn't into the Grateful Dead, this is the tape that might do the trick. It's like that powerful. And no messing around, no mistakes. The drummers came in late that day, and the band was just, they were playing with urgency, and they were playing as if the clock was ticking against them, and it probably was, because there must have been some kind of curfew. But such a great show. My favorite, one of my favorite first sets of all time. And I got Dougie here, so let's go right to the Zoom call and dig into Glens Falls, followed by the great Tivoli Gardens Europe 72 show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back joining us on the Deadology podcast today is my good friend, Mr. Doug Schmell. Doug, how you doing, buddy?
I am great, Howie. Thank you for having me. What's up, everybody out there? Good
Hey,
to
we
be
got
here.
two great shows to talk about today. We went to Glens Falls on April 14th, 1982, Glens Falls Civic Center. We're going to tell you about that. But 10 years earlier is a Europe 72 masterpiece, Tivoli Gardens. So we're going to start off with Glens Falls. They're both April 14th. Glens Falls, April 14th, 1982. Doug, do me a favor, fill in a few blanks for me. I don't remember too much about how we got there. There was a party bus involved. Give me some of those details.
Yeah, so I was a freshman at the time at the University of Albany. And, I had started seeing shows. 1980 was my first show at the Spectrum Philadelphia. So this was time that I started touring. Remember, I couldn't make it to the Spectrum in Philadelphia earlier that month. That was April 6th, a phenomenal show. but that was the 18 inches of snow show, if you recall, that I couldn't make it from Albany. There was no way. And then a few days later, there was the War Memorial show that we went to in Rochester, where we hit a deer on the way back. Great
I hit
story.
the deer. You had no implication of that.
Everybody knows that story by now. And then there were the Nassau shows on April 11th and April 12th. The 11th show was phenomenal. In fact,
I love the 12th.
Show, yeah, the 12th. That might have even been the better show. They were great shows, those Nassau shows. Maybe the 12th was the one that almost rivaled the one from Philadelphia, but nothing really could rival that show. And sure enough, a couple of days later, I'm back in Albany, and I believe you came to visit, and we took a bus that was chartered by a group of people that got together. We ponied up, whatever it was, $25, like a beer bus. They brought a keg on the bus. We took the trip from State University of New York at Albany to Glens Falls, New York. It's probably an hour and change, if I recall. And we were partying on the bus, having a great time. And then we got to the Civic Center. And come on, I'm 18 years old at the time, 18 and a half. This is my second semester of my first year of college. I'm so impressionable, so exuberant, so youthful, so excited to see the Dead. This is probably my 10th, 12th, 15th show. I could go back and figure it out, but it's early on in my touring, career. And I'll tell you, what a great experience to see them in a very small venue like this. This was easily the smallest venue I had ever seen them at this point. It was a civic center, but it didn't hold that many people,
Yeah.
How many do you think it held? Maybe 5,000?
At the most, man.
Right. It was a small little gym where I'm sure, who knows what they have in a hockey. Probably
much hockey. Yeah.
Exactly. A small hockey arena. And I'll tell you, that first set was unbelievable. They opened up with a smoking hot jack straw. It was really hot. Now, I remember you came with me on the bus. We knew all the people. God, here's a shout out to Jeff Fortgang. I believe he was on the bus. I'm sure Andy Trister was on the bus. Larry Gindorf was on the bus. What's up?
Yeah. I know Larry's listening.
Shout out to those guys. I miss you guys. I love you guys. Gindorf, Trister, Fortgang. I remember all you guys were with us on the bus. Charles Wolf was probably with us on the bus having a good time. Another guy who loved the Dead. So we had a bunch of buddies with us. We were partying in a great mood, and they opened up really in good form. That jack straw is amazing. Really is.
By the way, we were 10th row. You might want to throw that in there.
Oh, yeah. We were very close. We were about 10th or 12th row, something like that. Dead center a little to the left. I remember we were to the left. And the seats were just phenomenal. The whole experience was great. Seeing them, such a small arena where the crowd was so into it. Everybody was a Deadhead, Everybody was into it. So Jack Straw, phenomenal. Second song.
Before we go to the second song, let's just give the audience a taste of the Jack Straw, because it set the stage for the night. It's such an explosive performance. We'll hear the Jack Straw jam, and then we'll move on to Love Each Other. Here's the straw.
From sea to shining sea. Gotta go to Tulsa. First train we can ride. Gotta settle one old score. One small point of pride. Ain't a place a man can hide and shine. We'll keep him from the sun. Ain't a bed can give us that power to keep us on the run. the morning line. One man gone and another to go. My old buddy, you're moving much too slow. We can share the rhythm, we can share the wine.
Wow, you could just hear the explosion of Phil's bass, and man, just such a perfect version. Not the longest, but it's definitely up there.
It's a hot one. It just amazing that that's a show opener instead of like a first set closer. I thought they were always hotter when they closed the first set with Jack Straw as opposed to opening it, but that is hot as can be. Well, it's one of the best Jack Straws I've ever seen live. You know, I've seen them my first show, the one from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, from 8:30:80 is a famous one of the top ones. This is definitely up there as far as ones I've seen live. Second song, amazing. Hot, They Love Each Other. One of the best ones I've ever heard. It really is. It's up there. It's incredible. The jam is great. He does 2 rounds, Jerry, and they just sound in great form, you know?
Yeah,
You can tell
I
this is going to be a
definitely
hot
agree
show.
with that. Definitely the Love Each Other. That might be the best Grateful Dead Love Each Other, unless you want to go back to the '73 ones, which just have a completely
Which are
different
great.
feel.
Yeah, a little different jamming. I love those 73 versions. Believe me, I do. For the latter ones, this is up there. You know,
Yeah,
top
and
3.
the
They
only
were
ones
on.
I compare with this one is Jerry Garcia band versions like Roseland and stuff like that. But this is might be the best Grateful Dead version post '73.
Yeah, agreed. They were on. Jerry in particular, you know, his leads were just liquid, you know,
Yeah,
sparkling. And then, you know, you get a couple of cowboy songs, but they're hot. The Me and My Uncle, you know, was always good in that time period, but the Big River smokes.
yeah,
Check out that Big River, everybody. It's a beauty. It's
yeah.
not as long, you know, as some of the ones, you know, that they did after that, or even the ones of the 77. You know, you got the one from like the War Memorial in Buffalo. That's incredible. But this Big River is really one of the best ones I've ever seen. You know, I forgot about it. You know, I just listened to it recently. I was so pleasantly surprised. And at the show, I must have been going nuts. You know, I don't
Yeah.
remember my reaction, but I know I was in the mood, you know, in the moment, and they were just killing it. The Deep
Yeah, no,
Ellum
it's
comes next.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah, they were so hot. The Deep Ellum, you know, that's a song you rarely see now. I had seen that at the Garden. Um, let's see, it
that was
was
my
in
first show,
19.
March 9th,
Yeah,
81.
the first
Yeah,
at 3/9/81 at the Garden. They did a Deep Ellum electric version, and this one is great. It's
perfect.
bouncy.
Yeah,
It is. The lyrics are great. You could, in Jerry's voice, you could just hear him the way he enunciates the words. You know, like the women in Deep Ellum, they don't give a man a chance. He's so into it. It's great. Seeing Jerry in a great mood, bopping, looking at the crowd, realizing that he's in the moment. You know, he's showing off. I'll tell you.
Hey,
Then we
by the way,
have
you may not realize this, man. The night before, they were on. I think they were on Letterman, and they played Deep
yes,
Ellum Blues.
that is correct. The night before they're on Deep Ellum, David Letterman, I believe they played 2 songs. They did a Deep Ellum and a Monkey and the Engineer,
You
both
got
acoustic,
it.
and they nailed
You
it.
win the
And of course,
prize.
they're having fun with Letterman. I remember watching that on TV. I really do, and that was fun. So now we're seeing the live electric version. They killed it. And after Deep Ellum, I got to tell you, and
Made
how
me
he's
just start
laughing
laughing,
because
man.
one of the greatest songs I have ever seen in my life live, a song that they were doing every other night back in 1981 when they were switching off with CC Rider. So if you check the set list, folks, from 1981, every show was either a CC Rider or a Little Red Rooster. That was the blues portion of the show, a Bobby song. So they alternated each night. In 82, they didn't do that. They were still playing Rooster and CC Rider, but not as often. But this Rooster is by far the best one I've ever heard. If there's another one out there that's as good, I'd love to hear it. But the jam, Jerry just goes berserk. I actually heard this yesterday walking. I was listening to it on my iPhone with the headphones, and I almost got hit by a car because I was just jumping up and down. My head was like I was doing the air guitar, and people were looking at me because it's that hot. It's incredible. I don't know how Jerry gets that sort of inspiration in the middle of a jam, but he just nails it. It's like 3 rounds. He kills it each round, and there are some notes that he hits, and I'm like, how does he do that? It's fast, it's sharp, it's quick, it's hard to describe unless you hear it.
And it's
But
long.
something Yeah, and it's long. Something hit Jerry like in the moment where he was just looking at the crowd. You can just tell he's just enamored by it all. All these fans in the small arena cheering him on, and he just nails it. I'll tell you, that is one of the greatest songs I have ever seen live, no doubt.
Undeniably the best. If ever there's like a version that's the best ever version, you can't find anything close to it. That Rooster stands alone. So hey, let's give it a quick listen, man. The Rooster. Boom.
I'm a little red rooster, too lazy to crow for day. Just a little red.
Yeah, I tell you, man, that's definitely the best Grateful Dead Rooster. The only one I could even think of that comes close to that. I did see Clapton played with the Rolling Stones at Shea Stadium, and
Wow.
that was freaking hot. But
Well,
still,
yeah,
I mean,
Eric Clapton.
Jerry's
Eric
got him
Clapton
beat,
could
but,
jam
yeah.
too. Right. But Jerry, God, he hits those fast picking, sharp, liquid like notes that's hard to describe to somebody. That's the type of song you can turn a non deadhead onto the dead just by listening to Jerry's leads in that Little Red Rooster.
I
Because
think this whole first set just has that engaging quality, man. They weren't fiddling around for the next song. They were on a freaking mission. They were just like, we're late. We got to impress these people. We were on Letterman last night. They just came out and
exactly.
exploded in that first set.
Yeah, I agree with that. That first set, is it the greatest choice of songs? No, but they played each song with gusto, with precision. I'll tell you, for a first set, I can't be happier with that show that we had seen on 4/14/82. And it continues. After the Rooster, there's a beautiful brown-eyed woman.
Definitely.
Again, they weren't that long back then, but there's a nice jam. And then I'll never forget this. There was a guy in the first row, and I could see him. There was some commotion going on. I remember from my viewpoint, and I'm tall. I'm 6 feet, so I was able to see all of the people who were standing because everybody's on their seats at this point, standing on the chairs. I remember that there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
They're standing on the concrete floor, standing on
We
the
had to
chairs.
stand on our chairs.
Right, to get a better view. And there was somebody engaged with some kind of either conversation with Bob Weir or somebody else. And I think from what I found out later on, he was bugging the band to play Lazy Lightning. Either he was a guy that was on tour and they hadn't played Lazy Lightning and he was calling for it and shouting at it, and they did it. I think either to shut him up, there was something. I got to go back and listen to that if it's on the soundboard or an audience tape, but they do it. They do a beautiful Lazy Lightning supplication. And it's a very, you don't see that song very often in a set list, especially 1982. And it's towards the end of the first set. It was perfectly placed, And then they closed the set with a Bertha, a beautiful Bertha, came out of nowhere. They never really look. They
It's
closed
usually
the first set.
Tony's, usually Deal.
Yes. They usually opened up a show back then in '82 with Bertha. There's a lot of examples like that. And you think back, when do they normally close a show with Bertha? The ones I think of is like Veneta, 8:27:72. They closed the first set with Bertha. This was a little different. It was out of thin air, and I loved it. Bertha is one of my favorite songs. It's a little different when they close the first set compared to opening the first set, but it was great. And that put a cherry on what a phenomenal first set. To see it live, it's about an hour and change. To see that live was perfect. That's the type of set, if somebody who was a non-deadhead would have looked at you and said, I get it. I get it. I see what you guys mean. I'll never forget this. This was incredible. I get it. I'm on the bus.
That Lazy Lightning supplication, man. That's one of the best. I mean, it's close to being up there with the Rooster, like is the best ever version. It's that good.
Yeah, the supplication.
They flub the lyrics at first, but it's incredible.
Correct. But they jam
the energy of that flowing into Bertha gave Bertha a different feel. It was
exactly.
Crazy.
It was amazing. Like you would think, like after the supplication, they would have maybe paused, and then they could have done something into something to end the first set, or like you said, a deal. Don't ease me in, something. But Bertha to end the first set was perfect. It really was. It's a capper on a great energy first set. The energy is palpable. They nailed it. And now to set two, I'll tell you, this set two was better than I ever remembered. They open up with a China Cat Rider that's like 15 minutes long. It's a long version. It's great too. The cat, he hit some great notes. He's not in a rush, Jerry. The transition jam is perfect. The I Know You Rider is hot. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I'm actually listening to this yesterday in my car, and I was like, this is really hot. And then, folks, a song that blew me away because I don't remember it from the show. I'm sure I was, high or drunk. We had partied on the bus, and I'm sure I was into it at the time, but the playing in the band. So China Cat Rider opens up the second set. Then they go right into playing in the band, right at the last notes of Rider. On this playing in the band is over 15 minutes too, just like the China Rider. It's phenomenal. I literally just heard it today. I stopped yesterday on the China Rider, saving the rest of the second set, so I could, have it fresh on my mind. And this playing in the band is unreal. It's one of the best, if not the best, post, say, 74, 73, 72 that I've ever heard. 72 is my year for playing in the bands. I think that's their... when they hit, they nailed it on the head. 73 is great. 74, they get a little spacier, and some of them are longer. This one's a focused 15 minutes with outstanding jam. Take a listen, folks. You'll see what I'm saying. Jerry nails it. There are so many great themes in it. It's awesome.
Weir's doing all kinds of cool stuff, pushing him in different directions. And Garcia's,
it's amazing. Jerry hits so many of those quick notes. Yeah, there's some quick notes that Jerry hits that I couldn't believe it. And this is 82. I thought, they're not the same in 82. But God, when Jerry wanted to, he could nail it. And he did. And he was so in the moment at this show. I'll tell you, I was so pleasantly surprised.
Hey, and just
the playing goes into a drums, and then there's a small space, which is both very good.
1 second, to back up your Cat Rider, I'd say from 1980 on, there's 3 Cat Riders that are killer. The March 9th, 81 that we saw my first show.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
And Alpine 8782.
Oh, yeah.
They took their time.
We were at all 3 of them. We got lucky. We were at all 3 of those. And you're right. I would rank these as the top, say post 74 for sure. Yep. They're amazing. This one is just long and strong, the playing. So, after they do a drum solo, it's a good, I didn't really focus on the drums, but, when you're at the show, you're kind of into the drums. It's either you could go to the bathroom, you get a bite to eat, water. But it's always engaging to see Billy Kreutzmann and Mickey Hart do that drum solo and the duet, and it was great. And then they do a space, and the space is actually really good in this one. And then they go into the wheel. And I love the wheel. I really do. It's a short, it's about 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, but it's a great wheel. The wheel then goes into I Need a Miracle. And that was out of nowhere because at the end of the wheel, you're trying to guess what are they doing? And the miracle starts abruptly. They go right into it. It's pretty cool. Miracles, a good 5 minutes, a nice jam at the end. You can tell they were trying to think where they're going next, and they go into Black Peter. And it's a great Black Peter. It's kind of a short jam at the end. It's not really, Jerry at this point had really shot his load, I would say, in a lot of these songs. He really did. He was probably tired. He gave it his all. And the Black Peter's nice. It's melodic. The lyrics are great. I love Black Peter. I got to admit. Yeah, but it's just the hottest note. But then they go back into playing Reprise, which they didn't do that often back then. They would have just left it at that.
Forget about it, yeah.
Yeah, it was great, right? They just would have done playing into a Sugar Magnolia after the Bach Leader and no playing reprise. The playing reprise is great, It's over 4 minutes, it's focused, it's nice. Couple of nice notes before they start the lyrics, and then a nice little jam, at the end, and then they go into Johnny Be Good. It's funny, Johnny Be Good, I would never say, oh, God, psych, they're playing Johnny Be Good, but it was great. You listen to this Johnny Be Good, it is hot. They nail it on the second jam. It's great. Jerry extends it a little. He hits some fanning notes. It's great. And that's the end of the show. And they come back for a U.S. Blues encore with some really nice jamming in it.
I love
All
it.
told, this is a phenomenal show. I don't remember it as that because I've seen so many shows. But when you look back, and particularly seeing them from the 10th, 12th row, being an impressionable 18-year-old with all your college buddies around you, what an experience, Howard. What an experience. This is really, to me, one of the great moments and experiences of my life. Something that I could never replace. Seeing a live band of this caliber with a lot of great friends and friends who you've never met that you meet for the first time at a show. Everybody's into it. Everybody's dancing. This is what the Grateful Dead experience is about. This is Exhibit A. It really is. A small venue, not the longest show ever, but focused jamming, tight jamming, phenomenal show. I give it an A, not a B plus. I give it an A, not an A minus. This is an A quality show.
Amen. That U.S. Blues encore is great. So yeah, let me give you my relationship to the show. I've heard it for the first time on the bus back. I think somebody taped it and they were playing the Jack Straw. I remember drinking a beer and we're finished with the show, and I'm like, my God, what a great show that was. We're listening to the freaking Jack Straw. It was
right.
It was so
that
hot.
We heard a few hours ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, from that day forward, I have listened to that first set probably 1,000 times. Every year I listen to it 50 times. I listen to it that much. Not the second set as much. That first set, there's so much go-to stuff on that. But hey, man, we got limited time here, so we got to go to 72, man, which is an even crazier show because it's 1972. It's Europe 72, Tivoli Gardens, Copenhagen. I got to make it there someday and just see what all that magic is about. So, yeah, this is the fourth show of Europe 72, April 14th. They would play there the 17th to Bozos, Bolos, the whole thing going on, but the tour is really kicking in here. And Doug, take it away. I know you're going to rave about the Bertha to kick it off. It's such a great Bertha.
Oh, my God. So just for as historical, they were supposed to play two shows at the Tivoli on the 14th and the 15th, then play in the college, Aarhus in that university, and then play the Tivoli, I think it was called Danish TV Live. They were going to do a set for the TV, which they wound up doing on April 17th back at the Tivoli. But they were supposed to do two shows, April 14th and 15th. The 15th got scratched. Anyway, this 14th show is amazing. It's easily in the top 8 of the best shows of the tour. Easily. It's easily one of the greatest shows of all time in my top 10 because for me, the best shows ever are from this tour. The Dead were absolutely peaking. And from what I've read and heard, this was a gorgeous, gorgeous theater, the Tivoli Concert Hall or Tivoli Theater. It's on the grounds of an amusement park in Copenhagen in Denmark, and very liberal drug laws. So the Dead were playing in front of a very great crowd. It holds about 1,700 people, and they nailed it from the get-go. The Bertha is outstanding. It's funny. Bertha, me and my uncle, Mr. Charlie, they had done that for about 6 alternate shows in a row. They did that on April 8th. They did that on this show, which is the 4th show of the tour, on the 14th. They didn't do it on the 17th. But then they went back to it when they went to London. They did it in Frankfurt. Same thing. Bertha, me, and my uncle, Mr. Charlie. It turned into a great 3-song opening, and they nail it on this one. The Me and My Uncle's phenomenal. The Mr. Charlie. The energy is palpable. You could just tell that they're so enamored. You got to remember, they had just played in England at 3 cavernous, big, stadium-like places. They played at the Wembley the swimming pool hall in Wembley, and then in Newcastle in this concrete, very dour building that wasn't acoustically, beautiful. From what I've read, the Tivoli Gardens had gorgeous acoustics. So they're in the moment. They're listening to themselves. The music is playing the band. They're just killing it 3 songs in. And after the Mr. Charlie, they do, I believe, the first You Win Again of the tour. Yep, great song. Howie, I know you love this song.
Yeah.
It's a song by Hank Williams, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great song. They nail a black-throated wind. Oh my God, it's
And
gorgeous.
one thing
It's
about the You Win Again, they're even having fun with the crowd. The crowd's clapping. It feels like you don't have to clap,
exactly.
and
Be right,
and
right.
Jerry's
They're
like, "Well, you
engaging
can
with the
clap if you want
crowd.
to." You
There's a
know?
lot of great banter, right? You can clap if you want to. You don't have to clap if you don't want to. That was Jerry said that. They're really into it, you could tell. I love listening to the banter with the crowd from these shows in Europe because a lot of times they knew they weren't talking to English-speaking audiences, but they could still, communicate with them, and it was fun. So after the You Win Again, there's a black-throated wind that's hot. Oh my God, I love those 72 black-throated winds. Look, they're shorter than what they were in 72 and 74 and then going forward, but they're very hot. It's a minor jam at the end, but it's beautiful. It's just perfectly paced. Jerry hit some beautiful notes and then they ended. Chinatown Shuffle was next. Gorgeous Loser after that. Oh my God, those losers from this tour all had a great haunting Jerry solo. I love them. I really do. And then Out of Place, they do a Me and Bobby McGee next. Me and Bobby McGee was coming out of the other one for the most times on this tour. To see it stand alone in the first set is outstanding, and this one does not disappoint. It's fantastic. Cumberland Blues comes next. They only played it, I think, 5 times or so on this tour. They nailed it each time. This is a great one. The only thing about this Cumberland, there's no real long jam at the end after the lyrics are done before he said, before they go into the reprise of the lyrics. It's short, but
not
he
like
had
40,
other things to do.
Not like the one that kicks off Europe 72.
Oh, correct. That one from London is unbelievable.
But still, it's so
nice
incredible. Like everything they do with this show, and Europe 72, it's just an upgrade from where it was before. All the songs took a leap. They got better.
Correct.
Somehow.
A quantum leap. Correct.
Yep.
So they probably had played songs like this in the Academy of Music in New York before they flew to England to start the tour. And every song they've done on this tour is better than what they had done just a month earlier. And as hot as those shows were, and they were very good shows, you look back to December of 71 when Pigpen returned, and they played some unbelievable shows. Boston Music Hall, the Felt Forum. They played great shows in Michigan. Yeah. But they still made a quantum leap when they went to Europe. And you can tell even in these first sets, So continue with this first set. After the Cumberland Blues, there's again a Europe 72 playing in the band. It's over 10 minutes long. It's phenomenal. Jerry hit some great notes. You could just tell they're into it. The energy, they're playing with such energy because they realize they're playing in front of an audience that's probably never heard them before in an acoustically amazing small theater with 1,700 people. This is their element. They were
playing
on a
in the
mission.
Band really picks up at the end, man.
Fusion
Fireballs.
Yeah. I listened to it twice recently. It's funny. This show, I heard in its entirety 2 months ago on one of my trips to Orlando. So I heard half of it on the way to Orlando and half back. And then I re-listened to most of it walking around my neighborhood with the headphones. And I'll tell you, it's just an incredible high energy show. After the playing in the band, a Tennessee Jet. Every Tennessee Jet from this tour sparkles. This one's no exceptions. It's great. The El Paso that follows is a standout. It's great. Jerry's hitting notes the whole time. It's beautiful. If you ever want to hear an El Paso where you're like, it's just an El Paso, but no. This one, they really, really jam, and Jerry's just going during the lyrics before, and it's amazing. He even ends it with nice lyrics on this one. And jamming. The Big Boss Man that follows is hot. Pigpen gets his turn, and it's a great Big Boss Man.
Jerry's playing on that. It's
awesome.
It really stood out.
Too.
I hadn't heard this probably in a year and a half.
I
listened to it twice. It's so great, man.
I know. That Big Boss Man stands out.
Yes,
and then Beat It On Down the Line is always hot on this tour. This one's no exception. There's 2 runs in the jam. As they move forward to 73 and 74, Keith would take a turn on piano, and Jerry would somewhat be in the background on the second round of the jam. But in 72 on this tour, Jerry nails it on both rounds of the jam. It's incredible. Just listen to that Beat It On Down the Line. And then to end the first set is a raucous Casey Jones, one of the better ones of the tour. It's probably 6 driving that train, or maybe 7, but they put a lot of emphasis and gusto into it. And that puts a cap on an amazing first set, Now, again, these first sets, to me, in Europe, were all a primer for the second sets that were all pretty much unbelievable. The second sets of Europe 72 were amongst the greatest second sets of all time, easily. And many of these featured the greatest, what I call jam sequences of their entire career, where the Dead would play one song into another, 3 songs, 4 songs, where it was mostly 50 minutes to an hour and change. As everybody knows, The jam sequence that started it all from this tour was the Dark Star, Sugar Magnolia, Caution from 4/8/72 London. That's what I call a jam sequence. This one, phenomenal. I can't. When I first heard this second set, Howie, I could not believe what I was hearing because they opened the second set with Truckin', which is a jam sequence in its own. Jerry's guitar is raging, and the final jam, the solo at the end, is phenomenal. I'm imploring all you guys listening to this, check out that Truckin', check out that jam to end that the solo at the end. It is phenomenal. How are your thoughts? I'm sure you've heard that Truckin'
it's
recently.
unbelievable. And just to get back to that first set, man, it's like such great storytelling. They were like, "This is America." All these fucking great songs.
And a lot of Americana. Correct.
This is the universe at large, man. It was like incredible. But yeah, great Truckin'.
It's amazing. Besides their singing and playing, they had a message. They're sharing their stories. Americana, as you like to mention in your books, those great tales of the Wild West and Americana. It's amazing. They really do convey that in the first set. And I'll tell you, you listen to that Truckin' to open the second set, a standalone Truckin', it's phenomenal. It really is. And, it's a good 12 minutes or so, 11 minutes. They stop. Then Hurts Me Too oh my God, I love that song. The whole tour was hot. This one is no exception. It's one of the better ones I've heard. Then they do a Brown Eyed Women. I think this might be the Brown Eyed Women from the album. Correct me if I'm wrong. This might be the Brown Eyed Women from Europe 72. I think you're right,
man. I think you're right.
I think it's that perfect. It's picture perfect. Looks Like Rain they do. Now, they were doing Looks Like Rain a few times. I believe this might be the last one that they did on the tour. All the other ones are in the first set. This one they do in the second set. And it's awesome with Jerry on that pedal steel. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful.
It's just so nice because you hear Looks Like Rain so much, but when you hear it like this,
right? When you hear it back in 72, right? It's different than the ones they did in the late 70s, early 80s. It's phenomenal. It's poignant. Jerry's crying on that pedal steel. So 4 standalone songs, and then the magic begins. It's truly incredible because they don't stop. Dark Star into Sugar Magnolia, into Good Lovin'. At the end of Sugar Magnolia, they start the Good Lovin' without stopping. Into Caution, into Who Do You Love, back into Caution, back into Good Lovin'. It's phenomenal. It's well over an hour. It's incredible. To start with the Dark Star, this Dark Star is vastly underrated. Now, I get it. There's easily a few better overall Dark Stars from this tour. 4/8/72, 4/24/72. That one from Dusseldorf. Oh, my God. The Paris one is phenomenal. The one from 5/23 from London. The one from 5/11/72 Rotterdam. Those are all unbelievable heavyweight Dark Stars. And I can see people saying they're better than this one, but this one is unreal. It's only about 30 minutes, but the jamming is all focused. Jerry doesn't waste any time. There's hardly any dissonance. There's really no tiger jam in this one. They do a lot of great different themes. And at the end is easily the best, the most developed, and the greatest feeling groovy jam they've ever done. It is phenomenal. You listen to it and you laugh. It brings you to laughter. Like, how the fuck do they think of these things? Jerry's just hitting these notes over and over again, and they keep surpassing the notes that they did before. It's a good 5 minutes at least of this feeling groovy jam. It's
incredible because before the first verse, you get a nice long jam. They're ripping, and then it kind of gets spacey. Then they sing the Dark Star verse.
And right after the verse, they hit some great notes.
Most potent, like after verse jam. It's crazy.
On this tour, most of the times after the first verse, there'd be a little dissonance. 2 minutes of just trying to establish the space theme. And they're out of the Dark Star theme at that point. But this one, they go into some great jamming right into feeling groovy jam. It truly is a very unique Dark Star, and it's so hot.
Hey, before you continue, let's let the audience feel. Let's let our friends out there in podcast land feel groovy. We're gonna play the Feeling Groovy jam for you. Dig.
Enjoy.
right, everybody feeling groovy out there? A little Dark Star, and we're gonna get
That's
into Sugar
amazing.
Mag. Not as long as the one from
Yeah,
4872 with the
there's an
transition.
abrupt There's an abrupt ending in this Sugar Mag. You could tell that they were probably not on cue, the whole band together. They were probably wondering what they're going into next or whatnot. But it's still great, and the audience gives them a great cheer. I love it. The audience goes nuts because there's a small, maybe 15, 20 seconds of silence before they go into the Sunshine Danger. But it's just
exciting,
great.
man. You're out there, you're gonna cheer, man. You have no choice.
Exactly.
Hey, but the one thing, they did cut Jerry a little short on that. It was rocky.
I agree. He was starting to hit some notes, and it just kind of went like, that's why I say abruptly. But it's still great to listen to, and I kind of laugh when I hear the abrupt ending. But then the Sunshine Daydream is hot. And like I said, at the end of Sunshine Daydream, you're thinking maybe they'll stop and take their breath because they just played for almost 40 minutes. But no, they go right into Good Lovin'. It's unbelievable. They go right into Good Lovin'. And this is the Good Lovin' for the ages. Look, I love the Good Lovins where Jerry extends himself on the jams, Listen to the one, for instance, from 10/23/72 London from the Lyceum. There's no rap, Pigpen rap. He was obviously tired. He was probably feeling a little ill. It's towards the end of the tour. You know that he had the sickness and he wasn't doing as well.
Man.
But yeah, exactly. But he was just letting Jerry do his thing. And this is now a month and change before, almost a month and a half. Pigpen was feeling it. The rap is incredible. Yep. It's like literally, it's almost a 20-minute Good Lovin' with all rap. There's some jamming, but he goes off on a tangent, Pigpen, with these unbelievable, I don't know how he thinks of this stuff, but it's incredible. Is it sexist? Yeah, it's sexist, but it's all Pigpen. He thinks this is great shit,
It was liberals, 1972.
All the themes, all those great themes.
Yeah,
all those things. Jump in your saddle and ride.
Yeah.
You're a baker shop, in the cherry pie. He does that stuff. It's amazing. He does a long limousine. He does that. It's all the stuff, drinking and gambling, and on a 3-day creep. It's always a 3-day creep. Notice that it's never a 4-day. I love that. It's a 3-day creep. But it's amazing. It literally is one of the best Good Lovins, if not the best, because of Pigpen's rap. It's engaging. You want to listen to it. My God, you want to rewind it and say, what did he just say? How does he think of this stuff? It's all
and you see why he was the band showman for the first few years.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody else could have done that. He does a great job. His voice is really still nice and strong. Obviously, it's a little more frail, but he just takes this to another level. I would have to put this in the top 3 greatest Good Lovins ever. Maybe number 1. If somebody said, Doug, this is the best one ever, I would not disagree. It's that good. Again, it's like almost 20 minutes of rap and jamming in the background, and just the themes in it is great. Then they go into a caution. It's a truncated caution, but it's still hot. I love it. They hit some great notes, They're on a mission. This is, literally, they didn't have many more cautions to go. I believe after this one, they did one 3 nights later in the Tivoli.
That one's good.
And then, that one's great. Then they did one in Rotterdam, and that's the end for the cautions.
Yeah.
But they do the Who Do You Love, very short. And then they go back into Good Lovin', which is incredible to end that segue. I'll tell you, well over 60 minutes. What an unbelievable jam sequence. Again, Dark Star, Sugar Magnolia, Good Lovin', Caution, Who Do You Love, back into Good Lovin'. I mean, how do they have that kind of energy to play for an hour like that?
We got 2 minutes to wrap up.
Oh, yeah.
Not fade away going down the road is crazy.
Oh, so after the Good Lovin', they take a small break and they go into a Ramble on Rose, which is picture perfect. So they're not done yet. They have a Ramble on Rose, and then they end the show with one of the top 3 Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road, Not Fade Aways of the tour. Easily. Listen to that Not Fade Away, Going Down, Not Fade Away. It is spectacularly hot. The other ones you want to listen to are 5. As far as Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road, Not Fade Away. I'm not talking about Going Down the Road on its own, into Saturday night. Just that 3 songs. This is in the top 3. The other 2 to check out, folks, you got one from Amsterdam, 5/10/72 is phenomenal. Yeah. And the best one is 5/23/72, where they sneak in the Hey Bo Diddley.
Yeah.
This one
thing's great.
is incredible. This one is phenomenal. Going Down the Road is hot. The Not Fade Away is incredible. It's over 5.5 minutes, one of the longer ones.
I was kind of surprised at how good it was. It's really amazing.
It really is amazing. And then they end the show with a One More Saturday Night. That's spectacular. You ask yourself, how do they have the energy to do that after an hour and change jam sequence where they do Dark Star, Good Love, and Caution. It's unbelievable to me that they have that. All told, it's about a 2-hour second set,
Crazy.
and it's easily, to me, in the top 3 best second sets of this tour.
It's a marathon.
And the first set is great too.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying easily this is a top 8 show for me from this tour, and one of the, to me, top 10 greatest shows of all time. There's no doubt. Listen to it. Listen to the first set, folks. It's a primer for the second set. The second set smokes from front to end, from beginning to end. You'll love it, guys. It just really is one of those engaging shows in a small theater in front of Danish-speaking people hearing the Grateful Dead primarily for the first time. It just puts you, you think back to, could I have been there? Would I have been?
If only we could time travel back to Tivoli Gardens, 1972. My Zoom call ran out with Doug at that point, but we got the whole show in. Doug's enthusiasm, so happy to have him back on the show. Thanks for joining me to recap those 2 awesome shows. And just that Tivoli Garden show, I think Doug called it the 8th best, but 8th best of that Europe 72 tour. But it's such a monster show. It's one of the greatest of all times, even though we might rank it like in the A spot, which is no shame in the Europe 72 lineup. Just all those shows, phenomenal. And preparing for this, I listened to it a few times. And while I had it out, I probably heard it 3 or 4 times. That's the beauty of doing the podcast and researching this. I have to listen to it a bunch of times, and you don't want to let go of it because you may not get back to it for a while, man. After I did my Europe 72 revisited book, the 50th anniversary, I heard all the shows many times, but since I did that book, certain shows I haven't got back to. It's 2 years after that, and this is one of those great shows which it's so amazing to take it in again, a marathon of goodwill for the people of Copenhagen. So that wraps up this episode. We're going to get Doug back for what might be the second best show of Europe 72. I'm going to have to listen to it and see if it's up there. I think it's right behind Bickershaw. You got the Lyceum shows, and Paris shows are pretty great. Obviously, the April 8th show from 72. Just that Europe 72 tour, no show disappoints. It's such consistency. And Rotterdam, 5/11/72. I'm going to have Doug back for that, and I can't wait to take that show in again, hear it about 5 times in a row. That will probably be sometime in May. And I was in the Rotterdam Civic Center, which I believe I was in that same venue that the Grateful Dead played in. And I saw Bob Dylan there, and it was just like one of the most magical nights. I don't know if it was the Civic Center or that arena or whatever, man. But hey, the Grateful Dead had one of the all-time great shows back there, May 11th, 1972, and also thrilled to talk about Glens Falls again. That was early in our touring careers. By the way, if you want to check out my website, the podcast is there. I have a blog, which I haven't contributed too much because of the podcast. But yeah, my books are there, and Europe 72 Revisited. A lot of the performances from Glens Falls are in my Deadology Volume 2 book about the evolution of 33 Grateful Dead jam anthems. And yeah, hey, looking forward to being back here next week. I got a bunch of ideas. Not sure what I'm going to run with, but like April, there's such amazing Grateful Dead history. Whatever it is, it's going to be something that we all treasure, the memories from. So, hey, thanks for listening. I'm Howard Weiner. Peace out. Speak to you next week.